Hello! Hey, how's it going? Huge
Hello.
thank you for coming on, guys.
Hi, I'm good. I thought you were here.
so,
Hello.
some of my viewers are familiar
How's
with
my
Sandra.
lighting?
Some of my viewers are familiar with Sandra from the podcast we did. And Taj, would you like to introduce yourself, please, and just tell us a little bit about you?
My name's Taj. I manage Sarah Adams, who is Max's partner, or was Max's partner. I also worked on the Bases project back in 2015, 2016, and was helping with the conference that Max was going to be speaking at in 2016.
So, Sandra, what was your relationship with Max, and what was Max's mission? What was he about for people who are not familiar with him?
Well, the most important thing is that Max was known for his conspiracy research. And yeah, I do understand that there are a lot of people that do not know him still. But anyone involved in the UFO disclosure and conspiracy research in UK at least do know Max, essentially. And I'm not quite sure when Max started this journey, but one of the first interviews that I saw with him was with Project Camelot, and he was with his friend James Casbolt. So if you haven't heard of Max Spiers, maybe a lot of people have heard James Casbolt. And James Casbolt looked very much like Max. They looked really familiar. And the myth, well, not the myth, I don't know why Max never talked about this himself. There were a lot of people putting that stamp on him, this super soldier stamp, which is, in my opinion, a marketing theme. He was part of a group of children, apparently in Canada. There was 40 children part of that group, and majority of them died along the line due to trauma. That was going on, and it was a controlled mind control project involving these children, and James Casbolt and Max Spiers were involved in that. And this is really important. We need to start from the beginning, we don't want to jump ahead of his death events. And basically, majority of the kids died, but they didn't die during that program. They died sort of along the line. A lot of them developed addiction problems due to the psychological trauma, and a lot of them got in accidents. And a lot of those deaths, and what I've understood, were natural causes during their own life. And then James and Max came about, and they started talking about these things. But their initial interviews were a lot about political problems and etc. But later, which was the Hampstead Heath case and the pedophilia rings in UK and US, and the speculation is that he was gonna then put this in his book that he was getting help with from Monica Duval at the place where he died in Poland, but we're not gonna get into that today. So Max, yes, died in Poland at a lady's place called Monica Duval, who was a publisher, and she worked with people like Stuart Swerdlow, a very big name in the Montauk Project, and other UFO and all kinds of stuff. And there's just too much to say. So Max Spiers was essentially known for that, but just later on in his life, he started talking about the child abuse and these rings, and that is when he died, which is a big question now.
This sounds like a familiar theme then. You're saying that Max was about to expose perhaps elite pedophiles. He had a book coming out, and then he got snuffed out. Do you second that, Taj?
Yeah, so I was conversing with Max in 2016 in the months before he was supposed to appear at the conference in August. So I was communicating with him and back and forth, and I had an idea that he was going to be talking about things like Hampstead. He was going to name certain, I guess, celebrities or famous people that he had been told were involved in, paedophile activity and that type of thing. I won't name any of the people that I know, but one of them was a musician who died 6 months after Max died, around Christmas 2016. Quite a famous musician. Another was a politician, and another is a comedian, a British comedian who is also an actor. Still
Are we allowed to say these names?
No, we're not allowed to say those names, and I've had legal issues pertaining to this as well. So
I won't say the names, but
yeah,
what I really want to get into is like the time around when Max died, and a lot of the questions around what happened to him, especially when he was doing that last interview, where I don't know if anyone's watched his last interview, but it was audio only. He had problems breathing, and he literally sounded like he was dying during the interview. And there's questions around when that was recorded. It was supposed to have been recorded about 4 days before he died, but it could well have been recorded on the day he died. And as far as the day he died goes, there's a lot of questions surrounding that, as well as to how he died, Monica's involvement as far as supplying him with prescription drugs, which he admitted to in the inquest, which was in January 2019. She gave a statement to the coroner in the UK that she had, while they were on holiday in Cyprus, about 2 weeks before he died, that she supplied him with the entire pharmacy's supply of Xanax, which was about 10 packets. That was a contributing factor to his death. He died of pneumonia and an overdose of a mixture of Xanax and oxycodone. Monica's never been questioned about this, as far as why she supplied him these drugs. Also, the day that he died, she called her doctor before she called anybody else, her personal doctor who attended.
Let's not maybe talk about these yet. Just
Okay, yeah.
He's saying it was an inside job.
I don't know if it was an inside job, but there's a lot of questions and things have been covered up. Like stories have changed, several times from the Polish side anyway. So they've given one story and then they've changed their story and then they've changed the story again. So if there's only one story, then why does it keep, changing? So that's why I would question, I'm not saying that, I would say that there are people who've lied about it, as far as in the Polish side, specifically Monica, but because her story's changed, she's also disappeared. Nobody knows where she is or what she's doing. I've done my own sort of investigation into her after Max died, and there's questions about her business and her financial situation when Max passed away that could cause you to doubt as to her involvement in his death.
Very serious question for you, Sandra. Are you a super soldier?
no, I am not. Thank God. Right, that's the thing now. So because there's not enough time, so we just want to keyword the issue that we are really concerned about. People are having court cases over a few £100 property losses, and there's never been a normal court case over a man who died on a couch, and all the people involved have disappeared. So who has disappeared? Monica Duval, Alec, who recorded the last interview that has over 500,000 views. And now I've seen that these people have popped up here and there, Alec, etc. And there's never been a court case. So I wanted to know what is going on. And unfortunately, why I never came forward was I received a phone call that was basically a death threat to me, saying to me that if I am going to go and see Max, I better watch out or I'm going to get my pretty little nose hurt. Do you understand? And then the phone was put down in my face. And that was while I was booking my ticket to go and just go see a friend who was very depressed. So they were trying to label him as a junkie. That is stated in the Daily and in the Guard during the inquest. All these mainstream newspapers were covering it, and they labeled him as a junkie. But the junkie was good enough to be placed in front of a camera during a recording where he said, "It hurts here, I cannot breathe." So people are lying. He was a junkie during reports. Oh my God, he was out of control. But yet he was good enough to be placed in front of a camera to be recorded, which is still public and up now. And the people involved have mixed up all the important factors that me and Taj are going to get into, dates and etc., manipulated everything, which is indicating that they deliberately did this. This was not an accident. It was organized, and as well other nuances that are actually indicating that this was a ritual, okay? And this was a negative satanic ritual, in my humble opinion. I started this sort of research thinking that it was some hippie ayahuasca trip. Let's get Max really high, give him all this Axagan and a little other cocktail, and let's mimic a ayahuasca trip and get this information and record it. And then we can, get some very cool spiritual information. That is what I initially thought. But the more I think about it, combined with that phone call that I got, people knew that he was going to be killed, and it now is a serious thing, in my opinion. I've seen the notes. There are names there. No one recognizes these names. We can discuss that in the future, not today. And there is one name there that was already brought up in the media, a 75-year-old man who was a pedophile. Other kids were coming forward. They found him dead in his bed at 75. He was a manager at a child care facility. And Max had all these notes. And he had the name of the caller who gave me the death threat.
Wow. What is the story of the toxic green vomit, and was that ever chemically analyzed? Taj, do you want to...
I'm not sure what it was. It was probably because he died of pneumonia. It was probably coughing up congealed blood from his lungs. I think that's all in the coroner's report. I don't remember the specifics about what the actual black liquid was, but I believe it was blood. He was coughing up congealed blood, vomiting blood, and so
I can imagine that. Yeah. So basically, now I remembered something before this recording. Actually, during these weeks, there was a man who owned a cacao farm in Ghana who was politically involved. And there were a lot of millions involved for this hundreds of acres of cacao land they owned. And he had the same thing. He was vomiting black fluid, and they found him dead at home. And then they labeled him as an alcoholic. So then it turned out that he was poisoned. And then the paperwork for the farming were signed over. And then I was like, okay, this happened to Max as well. So this was some serious cocktail that they gave him that he would vomit. It was a tea-like color described in the inquest. It was not black, but tea color. Now, when I re-looked at the inquest, people were describing it was like, yeah, it was blood, and that doesn't really come from just anything. That is serious injury, and it's serious poisoning.
Wow, that is absolutely mind-blowing. You mentioned that people associated with Max, mysterious things had happened to them. Could you expand on that?
I'll just say a couple of words and then Taj, if you don't mind, Taj.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. So I went to look at this man who recorded Max during this audio, and this man is out loose, and he's still giving these spiritual lectures. Now, just briefly, this is the level of corruption we are dealing with. Max died at this woman's place. The ambulance was not called on time. The police arrived, and then the ambulance was sent away. We're going to elaborate on that in the future. So this is the level of cover-up that we're dealing with, that they were able to send even the ambulance away. They didn't even sort of do anything. How am I going to put this? Yeah, I don't want to jump into the future. But no one has seen Monica Duval. We need to emphasize that for the people that don't know this case. So Monica Duval was the woman who was hosting. And then the main journalist who was covering this in the BBC is as well been now covering up details, in my humble opinion. And the phone call came from this individual. So now there is a serious thing going on. If you want to add to that, Taj, I need a little bit think. How am I going to approach this?
Yeah, I think most of the questions around the death of Max Spiers, I mean, a lot of it's been publicized in mainstream media, but a lot of it, the mainstream media have got the facts wrong, got dates wrong, and things like that. So the questions we're asking are, what happened on the day that Max died? Because, you know, things like the ambulance was sent away. She called the doctor instead of calling the police and ambulance. That delayed everything. But as far as I know, by the time the doctor got there, the Max was already dead. There's nothing that the doctor could have done. In fact, it was the doctor who called the police because Monica wouldn't let him leave because she wanted him to keep working on Max, but it was obvious that he'd been dead for a while and there's no point. But she was hysterical and wouldn't let him leave. So the doctor called the police, and the ambulance arrived for some reason. We still don't know. The ambulance was sent away, the police were sent away, and then his body was left there overnight, which is not normal at all anywhere, you know, especially Poland, to leave a dead body after the police and the ambulance have already visited the home, and to just leave the body there is not normal. And the body was taken away the next day. You have to remember, this was the middle of summer. It was July. The body was left overnight, so you can imagine, like, the next day, you know, I mean, you know, what the body would have been like when it was picked up. So this all leads to, you know, questions about Monica's involvement. And you know, there was I don't know if we want to get into the note that the doctor wrote right now, but it was altered, it was changed. That was at the inquest. The doctor wrote something when he left. It's not really a death certificate. It's just a note that they handed to the police, and it was altered. It was changed. So there's questions about that. Question about him being left overnight. You know, the prescription drugs that he was taking. Where was he getting them from? There's also a head wound that I've seen a picture of his body where it shows a head wound. No one's questioned about that. There's nothing in the coroner's report about it, probably because by the time the body got back to the UK, it was pretty much like degraded to an extent where you couldn't see any marks. As far as I know, the body was completely black by the time it arrived in the UK, and his mother couldn't even identify the body. His sister had to identify the body simply from facial features because they couldn't recognize the face even.
Bloody hell.
Yeah, they said that this a drowning victim? Did it drown? The morgue, he said, did this person drown? They said, what do you mean? He said, he looks exactly like he's drowned underwater. He's been placed underwater.
Yeah, Vanessa called Vanessa called I think it was the morgue in the UK when the body arrived, and she was speaking to them, and they just made a comment like, "Oh, he drowned, didn't he?" And Vanessa was surprised, and asked him, "What do you mean he drowned?" Because the body looks like a drowning victim. That's what the morgue told her. It was bloated, and because obviously they've seen many drowning victims, they know what a drowning victim looks like. So Vanessa was surprised to hear that, and still doesn't know why they thought that when the coroner's report says that he died of pneumonia.
I can't imagine what his mother must have gone through then with that.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, she's been through hell pretty much, and even last year she lost her daughter as well. Max's sister died last year. to COVID.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's been very difficult for her. And you know, I mean, I've interviewed her a couple of times about the death of Max Spiers, and we've gone through every single detail, every question, and she still, I think, you know, she still has a lot of questions which we're trying to find answers to, really.
So I'm going to ask the viewers then if they've got any questions for you guys, because we're down to the last 10 minutes. But I want to just point out that I have this book right here.
Yeah.
Sandra's book. Where can people get this book now, Sandra?
It's on Amazon, and yeah, it's on Amazon. Pretty straightforward. But I just wanted to highlight as well about Max that when people go now just trying to get to know him, that the audio, they're saying that he was outdoors jumping on a trampoline, which is a very interesting factors that we're going to unfold in the next coming. This is it. The dates were mixed up. So if you go now listen to this audio, don't be fooled that they're saying that he was tired, he had to go jump on a trampoline. It was actually, everything has been manipulated and mixed up because he was actually indoors, and his computer, everything were wiped out. Everything was wiped out conveniently. They said that the phone fell in the bath, and got into water, and the computer was wiped out. Everything was wiped out, all the evidence, and that's it.
You got a question. You got a question here from Kelly. Who do you believe silenced him or disappeared him?
Well, the people who he was staying with, Monica. There are links to Monica was working with Stuart Swerdlow. I don't know if anybody knows or heard of Stuart Swerdlow, but he has relations in what was the FSB, KGB, whatever you want to call it. So there are links there. I mean, it's hard to say. I think it was some kind of, you know, I don't know what you would call it, satanic or group, really. I mean, anyone who is involved in like doing rituals and killing people and sacrifice. I mean, that's another thing we haven't talked about. Vanessa was sent a book about, so Monica was supposed to send the phone back and the SIM card, and she forgot the SIM card. And when she sent the SIM card back, it was inside a book about human sacrifice. Wow. And that's almost like, you know, I thought she was like maybe taunting her in a way, or even mocking Max's death. But to send the mother of someone who just died a book about human sacrifice is, you know, pretty sick, if you ask me. Yeah,
that was wow. Well, it is about how to sacrifice, and you know. And these people are loose, and no one has had a court case. And this is honestly, if anyone's in the chat room and has any legal background, I don't know, you're welcome to contact me as well if you want to sort of get to know this case. We have done a really thorough hypotheses as well. You can see it on my channel, the new one, because the previous channel mine was taken away with a very, very special ship. You know, it was called the Censor, and it was taken away. So my last channel is the new channel. You can see these presentations, and then next time we can unfold these.
So you've been asked by Matthew Steeples, what do either of you feel about the views of Max's girlfriend?
Which views are you talking about?
Matthew, if you could put those views in the chat while Matthew's doing that. You have another question come in here, and that is, do either of you feel fear for your safety? That's from Kelly.
Not really. I mean, it's been nearly 5 years right now, so if they were going to do anything to me, they would have probably done it by now. But the thing is that a lot of it's been, you know, after the inquest in 2019, everything just went quiet. And there's been like, you know, YouTube videos and things like that about it. But most of the people who've done YouTube videos are going by what they read online and on the mainstream media, and even a lot of the stuff in the alternative media is not accurate. I mean, I've spoken to Sarah, his girlfriend, and Vanessa on many occasions. So I know a lot of the details about the day he died and what was going on in the weeks and months before he died, and everything that happened afterwards as well. So yeah.
We've just posted a link to Sandra's new YouTube channel in the chat, and all of the links to both of the guests will be in the description box below this video. So please support the work. People here are saying it would be interesting to hear Max's mum's story. Would she be available?
Yeah, that's up to Vanessa. Yeah, I think she's done plenty of there's plenty of interviews.
I think there is. Yeah.
There's plenty of interviews.
Sorry, there's an
YouTube
echo talk.
There are some interviews on YouTube with Vanessa already, so she's already done several interviews to give her side of the story already.
The quotes have just come in now from Max's girlfriend, from Matthew Steeples. She said he was terrified. He wanted to leave. He wanted to come back to England because we were going to get married and have a baby. He was the love of my life. He rang me secretly because they wouldn't let him talk to me, and he said he was trying to get away from them. He said something demonic is going on. He said he needed to get out and find a church or a holy place, but 2 days later he was dead.
That's right, yeah. So Sarah, his girlfriend, was messaging him, and I believe she was probably one of the last people to message him on the night before he died. So I've seen those messages, and yeah, they were, I believe Max was going to go back to England to speak at the conference, the basis conference. They were going to do a talk together there. What was the rest of the... he said
something demonic is going on. He needed to get out, find a church or a holy place.
Yeah, I think he did a few interviews with Christine Hart, where he spoke about that with a certain individual who he believes was attacking him. I guess I could say because he's dead now, but he was saying he was being attacked by Michael Aquino, who has links to the Church of Satan and also links to the US military psychological warfare. So he did mention him a few times in interviews. So I don't know if that's what they were talking about in that question there.
Is there anything you'd like to say in conclusion, Sandra?
Yeah, that's a good question. Are you worried about your safety? I think that I don't know. Vanessa needs to sort of, she needs to think about if she wants to come forward. She's already, said everything that she had to say. The daughter passed away, left her with 4 grandchildren. So basically, she's now trying to raise these children. Is there any point to even, get back to it? I'm happy to come forward and say about that death threat phone call. I don't know why I stayed quiet. And now when looking into people who did the phone call, they're conducting negative satanic rituals on TikTok, sacrificing animals. And there's definitely sort of some voodoo going on. Okay, let's now, be realistic, because if they're already sacrificing animals and getting them to elevated state to get adrenochrome, literally, and scratch their eyes out of these animals, then some of these rituals even take place literally. I know they take place 30 days straight. And I do feel sometimes that there's someone tapping in. Is it going to get face-to-face in the future? But one thing is for sure, honestly, this was organized. The more I think about it, and there was a lady who was working with Monica Duval. Taj has conversations in the past. And she said at the end, and you know, if you think about the level of corruption, we got to emphasize that the ambulance was sent away. They had full control of the scenery. They did whatever they wanted, and yes, she called her own GP to formulate the documents, whatever was convenient for them. And it was pretty organized. And these kind of people are very patient. They will wait for years to come after you. They will wait for years.
So people are interested. People are interested in your other work, Sandra, and this is just a slither of what you've researched. So I'm going to read the back of your book for people. So the literature speaks of the current situation in the world and how did we come to this point as a collective. The investigation will lean into great detail about this world's history and mechanisms. Who is ruling us? Where do they come from exactly? And how do they operate? This book will leave the old, repetitive, follow the money investigations out of the occasion, which never gave the final answers. Instead, it will be putting a far more complex riddle under the loop, looking into the intruder's soul and what they are all about. Who do they represent and worship? And why do they want to control this planet? The literature is composed of two characteristics, novel, female, and mechanisms, male, whereas all of the information will be presented in a concise format, compressing and presenting more detail within a small space. So if you want to delve into Sandra's work, there is the book, there is the new YouTube channel. All those links are provided. Is there anything you'd like to say in conclusion, Taj?
Yeah, I mean, there's only so much we can talk about in this interview. We've only just touched on a few points, really. There is a lot more to it. It goes much deeper. You know, if you want to have a longer conversation about it, then we can talk more about specifics. But it's very difficult to just get too in depth in today's show. But I think it would be better if we can go a bit more deeper on it.
Yeah, perhaps if we get everybody in the studio, we could do a multi-hour interview on this subject.